Welcome to Built from Love, the podcast for moms birthing businesses and babies. I'm Erin Pratt, and thank you so much for being here.
Today, I want to share a little bit about how to manage burnout as a mom and an entrepreneur. And this is a topic that we hear a lot about. Moms experience burnout all the time. Entrepreneurs experience burnout all the time. And when you put the two together, it is a perfect storm for massive burnout to occur. And I am going to address a few things that might be a little bit different advice than what you've typically heard when it comes to managing burnout as a mom or an entrepreneur. I hope that some of these tips help you as you may experience inevitably the burnout that comes from constant caretaking of another individual or multiple children while trying to grow a business or managing a business that is succeeding or starting a business, whatever path you are currently on. So when we think about self-care for moms, we think about a spa day, slipping away for a massage if you're lucky, doing a facial at night. What do we think about when it comes to self-care for moms? And is that truly rejuvenating, or are there other things that we can pull into our day-to-day lives that really make a bigger difference, a bigger impact on our mental health? It is not a lie that when we do fill our own cup, we are able to pour out to others. And as moms, we do need to pour out. We do need to take care of our children. And first, that starts with taking care of ourselves. I am breastfeeding my little baby here who's asleep on me. And there is no better analogy for filling up your cup first in order to give. And if I don't eat enough or drink enough during the day, I notice a dip in my supply. And so I have to fuel myself physically, literally fuel my body in order to fuel my baby. And so I think that's a perfect analogy for us as moms and business owners. We need to take care of ourselves. But sometimes in some seasons, it is just really hard to find the time or even energy to practice self-care. So what does this look like? One of the things I want to talk about is breathing room. When I first became a mom after having my first little baby, I noticed that one of the hardest things for me to transition into is this concept of not owning your time really anymore. You don't know how long your baby's going to nap for. It is unpredictable, especially in the early years or early months, where naps can be anywhere from 5 minutes to 3 hours, right? So it's hard to really dive deep into a project and not know how long you're going to get. Whereas pre-children, you sort of could time block for yourself and manage your time in a more predictable way. And it was really hard for my brain to switch gears from taking care or being a mom or working on my business or working on my job, whatever it might be. And so what I've found over the years is, one, you adapt and it becomes easier. You just start to learn to be more flexible and to switch gears a little bit faster. I'm not perfect at this by any means. I still carry the to-do lists and the mental load in my mind when I'm with my girls. And I still think about my girls when I'm doing my work. There's no perfect solution to this. Our brains just hold a lot as moms. But giving yourself breathing room can make a really big difference. There was a period of time that I was waking up at 5 a.m. to get in 2 hours of work before my day started. And I noticed that if I worked right up until the moment that the girls came downstairs, I would have a really hard time turning off my work brain. And I would feel like the day was moving full steam ahead versus taking a few minutes and this was a time when I knew kind of predictably when my girls were waking up, so they were a little bit older. If I stopped 5-10 minutes before I could hear them stirring or waking up and just poured myself that cup of coffee and sat on a rocking chair on my porch for 2, 3, 5 minutes, it made a huge difference. On the days that my girls were out of the house with my parents or with my husband who was watching them or with a nanny, and I knew that they would be coming home at 5 o'clock. If I took 10 minutes at the end of my workday, which is really hard to sacrifice, to be honest, when you get limited chunks of time to work, it is really hard to give up writing one last email or putting together one last piece of content. But if you pause, you write down everything that you want to get done in your next chunk of work time, and you pause and you just do something else. Sometimes I would go for a really quick walk. Sometimes I would unload the dishwasher, just doing something different. There was a few times where I would actually take a shower early It just sort of helps you transition from work brain task mode to mom mode. So, where can you find a little breathing room? It could be as little as 1 minute to switch from what you're doing. Another good example is if you have a more traditional job and you have a commute, that commute time can act as that transitional period. And so if you're working from home, where can you build in almost like that commute time where your brain gets some decompression time before you have to switch gears? Another thing I found really helpful to prevent burnout, to ease stress in my days is finding an anchor for myself. And the people who know me well kind of joke about this, but my thing with the shower is my sacred space. I have a really beautiful shower in my bathroom. It was one of the only things that they had upgraded in our home when we bought it, as we kind of bought it as is, as a new construction home. But they upgraded our shower. So it's really big. It has a rain head and two shower nozzles and a bench to sit on, and it's all glass, and it's really a beautiful place. And it has always been my sacred place as a mom and a business owner. I take a shower every day. I've never been that mom who's like, "Oh, I never got time to shower today." I made the time to shower every single day. And it was my and continues to be my sacred place. I listen to podcasts. I do a lot of thinking in the shower. It is just quite literally and metaphorically a place to wash off the day and just have that time behind a closed door where nobody needs anything from me. And I can just think and be and consume podcasts or audiobooks. And I thought of my girls' names while I was in the shower. It's just a really special place for me. That is my anchor. I know when the day is just starting to feel overwhelming. I've been needed by everybody and had to do so many things that day with my girls and with client work. I know I can look forward to around 6:30, 7 p.m., right before I end up putting the girls to sleep. I know I have my shower. So that is my anchor. What is your anchor? What can that be? And it doesn't have to be a big anchor. It could be a meditation practice. It could be 15 minutes with your favorite book by your favorite window. It could be your morning coffee ritual. It could be a wind down time before bed, journaling, whatever that is. Have an anchor, because just knowing you have that to look forward to in your day can bring this sense of peace, this sense of rhythm, and a reset for yourself. Before I had children, I was big in the wellness world. I was a yoga instructor, meditation instructor. I shared a lot of content about creating peace in your day and creating peaceful rhythms and bringing a meditation practice into your life. And after having kids, I was like, wow, what a privilege to be able to do all of these things with crystals and guided meditations and easing into your morning. When you become a mom, that is just kind of out the window in a lot of seasons. When you have older kids or you get into a rhythm or whatever it might look like for you, there might be opportunities for you as a mom to, of course, pull those practices into your day, especially if you make the time for them. But I find that my mornings are just really fast. They happen fast. When you feel like your day is so busy and there's no time to give yourself a break, there is a way to build in what feels like rest and what can feel restorative, even if you're going all day. And I heard about this from someone I follow on Instagram, and I thought, let me try this. What a revolutionary idea. It is to do things a little bit slowly. So she said, on days that you feel like you have no time to yourself, like even 5 minutes feels impossible, or you're with your kids nonstop because your partner is traveling for work and you're never turning off, right? You're on. Just try to do some things slowly. So if you're putting your moisturizer on your face in the morning, can you just go a little bit more slowly when you're putting it on your face? When you are walking down the stairs, can you walk, just slow down? When you're pouring your coffee, when you're eating your lunch, can you chew your sandwich with a little more intention? It just it sounds simple and silly and like, how does that really make a difference? But I've tried it, and especially the face routine, I will say, that has made a huge difference. It does feel like you're bringing a little rest into your day. And so on a day when people are like, "Oh, of course you have time for a meditation," or "Surely you can give yourself 10 minutes to rest." And sometimes that is not true. Sometimes you don't get that. But there are still ways that you can bring a little restoration into your body, a little reset for your nervous system. It's like just that breathing, right? If you're going on a walk with your kid, can you just notice things? This morning I was on a walk with my baby and it was just me and her. It was a really nice, peaceful walk, beautiful fall morning. And I noticed this massive spider web between two trees, and it was just beautiful. And so I walked up closer to it, and I saw the spider was actually building the web as I was watching her. I'm just gonna say it's a her. It reminded me of Charlotte's Web. And I just saw this spider just weaving this web, and it was so beautiful. And the sunlight was hitting it, and the morning dew was there, and I felt like I was in a painting or something. And so just noticing and doing things a little bit more slowly can help with the feeling of burnout, even just a little bit. When you start to feel that creeping sensation of overwhelm in your body, like that physical tightness in your shoulders, the shortness of your breath, where you're like, I am about to blow. I want you to think about the sense of urgency and what is truly urgent. Another thing I had to transform in myself when becoming a mother was this sense of urgency, especially when it came to work. When I got emails, I felt like I had to respond right away. When I got a client inquiry or, customer inquiry, I felt like I had to jump on that or I was going to lose a potential lead or customer. When a client was emailing me with an issue about something, I felt like, oh my goodness, no matter the time of day or night, I had to respond in order to keep this sense of good customer service. When I was working more traditional jobs, I jumped on requests from my boss or whatever really, really quickly. After becoming a mom, I had to slow that down. You just actually have to. But I started letting go of this sense of urgency, and my clients probably experience this with me. But truly ask yourself, is it an emergency that I need to respond to immediately? And we sort of put ourselves into this fight or flight mode throughout the day so frequently when in fact it is not an emergency and almost everything can wait. And so when you start to feel that sense of like your to-do list just completely piling out of control, look at that to-do list and ask yourself, is this an emergency or is this something that can wait until tomorrow? I would wake up with these task lists in my mind of things I wanted to accomplish. And sometimes your kids have other plans, right? Like I'd have a dedicated work day and I knew my girls were going to be taken care of and they were going to be out of the house and I'd have all this time to record this content and do all these things and get all this work done. And then I see my daughter come downstairs looking pale and throwing up into her hands. And you're just like, well, there's my day. That was a really hard thing for me to shift into, like going from, oh, I'm going to have a really productive day to, wow, this day is going to be a day that I get nothing done. And feeling that sense of stress rising in my body. I now know how to go into those days with so much more peace and ease because ultimately I know that almost everything I was going to do that day is not really urgent. It can wait until tomorrow. With potentially some exceptions, and then you find a way to work around those things. Can you put on a show for your kids while you do take that really important call? Can you ask a neighbor, a friend, a partner to lend you a hand for the truly urgent things? And then the rest of it can wait. And so, again, just encouraging you to really be honest with yourself about what is urgent and what can wait, and trying to build that into your schedule or your rhythm to help kind of ease some of that feeling of immediacy. Another thing we tend to do when we are feeling burnt out is we consume. And I definitely have fallen into this category. That stereotypical, the kids finally go down to bed, or you get that baby down for their nap. And what do? You open up your phone and you scroll numbly, endlessly. And you meant to just do one thing, right, on your phone, and 20 minutes pass, 30 minutes passes, and you're like, what have I even done? And then, your baby wakes up or it's time to go to bed. And you just don't really feel that good about yourself. What did you just really do in that time? You weren't rejuvenating yourself or resting your brain. You were just mindlessly consuming content. And same thing with TV, Netflix at night. Listen, I love a good show. I love a good movie. And there is a time and place for that. But if you were in a true state of approaching burnout, consuming is not that restorative. I find creating to be more restorative in many ways, or just actually resting and taking a nap is often what you need to do. But creating can feel better. And so, what I mean by this is like writing, if you're into sketching or drawing or anything like that, doing something that does knock something off your task list if you do get a little bit of time, batch creating content. writing that newsletter you've been wanting to write, or writing a letter to a friend or a family member. Creating can feel more restorative. Creating versus consuming can bring more feelings of peace, more feelings of productivity, exercising different parts of your brain. And so when you're kind of in this state of burnout and you're just like, oh, just going to flick on the TV for hours and hours, or going to scroll on your phone for hours and hours, I encourage you to think about, where can you actually create versus consume? Where can you make yourself a really wholesome meal versus just consuming, that McDonald's drive-through? So just nourishing yourself, your creative self, can sometimes combat those feelings of true burnout. And it's so easy to fall into that consumption hole. I was speaking with a friend this morning, and she was talking about this opportunity she had to help somebody who's building a new home. And she's so good at interior design and just has an eye for detail and design. And she was helping them walk through their house and find like where to put different pieces of lighting and decor and how to set things up. And she got home and just felt so good because she hadn't exercised that part of her creative brain in some time. She's a photographer and she's a new mom. And she's basically doing those things every day, all day, right? Like she's either working or she's either mothering, and she's kind of not had a chance to exercise this creative interior design side of her brain. And she said that it made her feel so good that day when she got home, and she hadn't flexed that part of her in a long time. And she's like proud of it, right? She's good at it. And it felt good to help somebody. And it was funny because I already written down in my notes things that really make a real impact that aren't, the typical massage or wine drinking at the end of the day. Like, how do you really take care of yourself as a mom with burnout? And I think that burnout can sometimes happen too because so much of motherhood is monotonous. It is mundane. It is waking up and doing the same thing every day. And that can lead to some burnout. And then as an entrepreneur, if you're just working or taking care of somebody, that burnout creeps in because you're just on this hamster wheel. Like you're doing the same dishes again. You have to figure out dinner again. You have to rock your baby to sleep again, and over and over and over. And it feels a bit mundane and monotonous. And so when you feel that burnout creeping in, how can you experience something new or pull something new into your day or switch things up? I've found when I've experienced burnout in motherhood, when I've piled the girls in the car and we went to the zoo just super spontaneously, it was fun for all of us. Or in entrepreneurship, when you're just dealing with the same issues every day, the same kind of client work every day, how can you switch things up? Even if it's switching up the location you're working in, or co-working with a friend, grabbing a cup of coffee with somebody, changing something in your day, switching things up can help kind of spark that feeling of excitement, spontaneity, and just creating a new memory for yourself can feel really good. So when you start feeling that mundane hamster wheel feeling, and you take one step forward and two steps back, and it's the same thing tomorrow and the same thing the next day, just think about switching things up, doing something new, going somewhere you've never been. It could be simple or it could be big, of course, like booking a trip or taking a vacation. But switching things up, adding new things into your life can really make a big difference. And then, of course, this one is more commonly mentioned, but it is worth talking about because it's something that I've gotten progressively better at as I've become more confident as a mom and a business owner. And it is just asking for what you need. We're not great at asking for what we need. And if people offer to help by just saying, what do you need? It can be overwhelming to answer that question because, to be honest, you probably do need a lot. And in some ways, you might feel like it's easier for you to just do it. I'm very guilty of always holding my babies and not passing them off because they're happy with me and they're calm with me. But sometimes you do need a physical break, even if they are crying with someone else. You need your hands to yourself for a little bit. Sometimes you need 5 minutes to go upstairs. When I was pregnant with my third baby, I got so deeply tired in the late afternoons. My husband works from home. And I would just walk upstairs. Can I just lay down for 10 minutes? And you go downstairs and be with the girls because that 10 minutes will make a difference for me. And so it can be hard to ask for what you need or sometimes even identify what it is that you need because you are so tired. But the more you can ask for help, the more you can lean on others. One, they do want to help. Most people do really want to help. They just don't know how, or they don't know you need it. And two, asking for help will get easier. As you become more confident in your mothering and your business, you'll start to identify really what makes a difference for you. Is it time away? Is it time alone? Is it time going out? And I don't mean grocery shopping by yourself. That is like not self-care, right? But really time to yourself to do what it is you want to do. Go to a coffee shop with a book, an hour on a Saturday. It can make a big, big difference. And I've gotten really good about asking my family for help. Just this weekend, I just felt like I had been running out of work time. We had been on a trip and then just certain things were coming up and I was losing work days. My work was piling up. And I could feel that sense of, oh my gosh, I'm going to blow with this overwhelm and this sense of wanting to be productive, but not being able to. And so I talked with my husband and he decided to take the girls to his parents' house for the weekend. And I got a weekend to not only bond with my little baby, but to get a lot of work done. And let me tell you, I am going to be the best mom when those girls walk in the door later today because I got what I needed. I got time to work, I got time to rest, and it wouldn't have happened if I didn't ask for it or bring it up to my husband. So ask for help. First, identify what really makes a difference. What do you really need in this moment? And find somebody who will give that to you because I promise you, there is somebody in your village, in your network who is able to provide that for you at some point if you just ask for it. And then the last thing I want to address is motherhood is hard. Owning a business is hard. And I think our society has flipped the script a little too far in the negative direction. So we used to not be able to talk about how hard motherhood was like, a generation ago. It just wasn't even talked about. It was just expected. You just do your thing, right? Women didn't have as many rights and all of that. And I think we've gone so far in the other direction about moms being looked at as victims and this sense of feeling sorry for moms in our culture. Whether you're a mom or you are thinking about becoming a mom, motherhood is so beautiful and it is so hard. And that makes it beautiful. And there are some really deep, deep, dark lows you can experience in motherhood. But I want you to also understand that on the flip side of that, you will experience the highest highs, the purest form of love that you could ever experience on this planet, I think. And so, in your moments of burnout, in your days where you feel like you're just not moving forward, you're stuck where you are, and the world is moving without you, I just want you to be encouraged that motherhood is such a beautiful experience. And the further into my motherhood journey I get, the more I look back with just such fondness for these experiences and for the growth and transformation I've been experiencing through motherhood and how that kind of spills into my business. And so, on the days where you feel like you're going to scream, sometimes that is what you need to do and scream. But just have that faith that you are experiencing such a beautiful journey, and all journeys have darknesses and lows to them. And that just makes the highs and the beautiful moments so much brighter. And so I just wanted to share this with you. I hope it really helps if you feel like you're on the verge of burnout, whether in business or in parenting or both. You're doing incredibly hard work. And caring for little people is no easy feat. And just because it's normal doesn't mean it's not hard. Being a mother is not novel. Every animal, every person on this planet has a mom, but it is an incredibly challenging experience and role, but it is so, so rewarding. And when you add business ownership and entrepreneurship into that, it is a wild ride, but man, I would not change it for anything. So keep hanging on if you are really burnt out. And I hope these tips help you, even if it's just a little bit, even if it helps you just feel a little less burnt out in your day. I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any other advice, feel free to share that with me, message me. I'd love to hear from you. And if you try any of these things, let me know. Keep going, keep building everything you're building from a place of love, and I will see you next time.